Hi, Verbling. My name is Michaela. I'm from Phoenix, Arizona. And today we're talking about human rights and reading an article as well as listening to it. So we'll get the class started with discussion and lots of questions. If you guys are left with any questions at the end of class, let me know on Facebook or on my Verbling profile where you can also send me a message. I also have plenty of open tutoring sessions left this week and many more open next week. If you'd like a private one-on-one session, check out my profile, my tutoring profile, which I thought I had a link to. I'll put a link to my profile in the chat box for you guys. In the meantime, I'm going to send you the article so you guys can open it up and get a look at what we're going to be reading today. So that's the article there. And I can screen share that with you guys just as soon as we get started on it. And all right, the title of the article is, Do You Have the Right to Remain Silent? You have the right to remain silent, or do you? So we'll be talking a lot about human rights before we get into that article. And you're welcome to participate in the chat box as well. So the first question we're going to answer today is, what are human rights? I want to know what you guys think are givens, the rights of every human. And the second link coming in is my Verbling profile. So you guys are welcome to message me using that link. All you have to do is click send a message or book a session there. Adela, welcome to class.
Hello, Michaela.
Hey there, Adela, how are you?
Fine, but a little tired.
Yeah, it's middle of the week, so we're all kind of working hard. What have you been doing today so far?
Yes, but tomorrow I have a day off.
Yay! Why do you have off on Thursday?
Yes, and Friday too. Is a bridge in Spain.
Wow, so you get 4 days off in a row?
Yes.
Excellent. Very nice weekend.
Yes, yes.
You must be excited. Do you have any big plans?
I have a plan, but I'm not sure because my husband have a little is a little ill, not
Too
it's
bad.
not ill, but they not
A little under the weather.
good. Yes,
All right. Well, I'm glad you have some free time to recuperate.
yes. I hope tomorrow is well to go.
Cool. And Ali Beck, welcome to class.
Hello, teacher. Nice
How
to
are
see
you doing today, Ali Beck?
Thank you. I'm fine.
Awesome.
Everything is good. How are you?
Very cool. I'm doing well. I'm having a good time teaching some morning classes before I go off and have lunch. So this is my last hour before I make a little pasta for myself. What are you doing today, Ali Beck? Any plans for the rest of the day?
Yeah, I've been working, and now there's the evening, and I decide to join to some class in the work.
Cool.
And there is your class now.
We're glad to have you with us. I put the first link in the chat box is for the article we're going to be reading. But before we get to the article, we're going to discuss a little bit about human rights. So let's name some human rights. Adela, will you start and tell us what are certain things you think should be automatic human rights that everybody is entitled to?
I think in the human rights, the normal is to have a place to live, to have a work in Spain, at least in the Constitution. Don't have non-discrimination. I think is choose your religion is to have education, but sometimes it's not possible in more country.
Okay, so I heard you say a place to live, work, religion, education. Those are the four you mentioned, right? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Ali Beck, do you have any you can add to that list? Any other human rights you think?
I think the human rights is some kind of a basic right that we have since we have birth. It's not always as like usual, regular right in other countries. It may be different, but the basic right is the right for living, right for freedom of thinking, of freedom to be born, and some kind of that basic conventional rights, I think.
Okay, those are some good ones too. So the right to live, the right to think, these are definitely important ones. I'll put that short list in the chat box for us. And let's continue discussing a little bit about these. So we made a short list of human rights. I want to know, do you guys think that you have all of your human rights met? Adela, what do you think? Do you think all of your human rights are being met right now and you have all of the rights that you should have? Adela, are you there?
Yes, I don't understand, Claire, the question. It's about, yes, repeat, please. Thank you.
Okay, so we came up with a list of what we think are basic human rights. And I want to know, do you think you have all of them? So, of course, the list you came up with was a place to live, work, freedom of religion, education. And you mentioned that not everybody has those things. But I want to know, do you have them?
I mentioned about the not every people has the human right because they are country with totalitarian governments, etc., where is a problem, no, to keep this this human right. I think people can be in prison only for your ideas. A court, no, to have a jury in a court to with in conditions. I think it's not possible in all in every country. Same in the in my, I think in my country or in USA, it's not possible everywhere every day to have human right. I don't explain that.
So I think you're saying that you
theoretically,
have your human rights, but not everybody does.
yes, but it's possible I don't have all the possibility to human rights. For example, work is a human race theoretically, but in Spain there are a lot of people is unemployed.
True, very true.
So it's I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good start to this conversation. Alibek, can you contribute a little bit? Tell us if you think your human rights are ever violated.
Well, maybe partially because I think that some kind of universal human rights is some basic thing, and all the states in the world has partly done it. They are, but it's not necessary in some kind of states in our world. But in our country, yes, we have all people have the basic rights, like right to be living, to free move from some part of the country, the state to state, some kind of freedom of the press, the media. I mean, then, but I think the most important is how our civil rights is do better for us. Exactly, that's just what we want from them. I think it's some sort of populism in here when some person start to thinking about the basic human rights. Yes, we already have it all, but I don't think that is some kind of very important things. Maybe for the politicians, I think that many more important is our civil rights in our country, because we have a different culture on historical process and other things.
Yeah, everyone might have a different opinion on these matters because of different cultures. Ciao, welcome to class.
Hi, good to speak with you again.
Good to have you back. We're talking about human rights this class, and we came up with a short list of things that might be human rights, like a place to live, freedom of religion, education, work, non-discrimination, the right to live, and the right to think. Do you have anything to add to that list? And do you ever feel like your human rights are violated?
Okay, well, I think basically people have the rights, well, the property right and liberty and their body. I mean, these three things are the essential rights for every human being, whatever their religion is, the country is from. And for well, actually, I don't think people have the human right to say that, well, I have the right to work, I have the right to get education and to place to live. That is now the essential of the human right. Is sometimes it at others' expense. It's not good. I mean, the basic right is the right to liberty and the right to your own body and your own property. I think these three things are the basic right. For me, my right have been violated for many times. I mean, I should have a right to the freedom to talk. I should have the free access to the internet, but apparently I don't. I have to use the proxy to get into the Google Hangout. That is valid to my right. Lots of other property rights. I was taxed every day, so that is another story. So, yeah, people should. The human rights are very important. It's a very interesting topic. So.
For sure. And it is a pity that most of our Chinese students have a lot of difficulty accessing Verbling. You said you have to use a proxy in order to get into the Google Hangouts? So
Yeah.
they don't work properly if you use a normal connection to the internet?
Well, no, it just they block the Google, the whole Google. I think
Oh
recently.
yeah, I
Yeah.
forgot.
Well,
Google.
I think but a few months ago they just blocked the YouTube and Facebook and something like that. But now I think they blocked the Google function of Google and even the Introgram, the software, the photo software. So it's getting worse and worse. Anyway, but they cannot block my thoughts so that I can find a way to get into the Google Hangout. So
Yeah, we're glad you go through the work to be here with us.
thank you.
And your audio is way better today than it was last class. I'm
Because
glad we can hear you better as well.
adjusted it, so yeah, I think it's working better now.
Great. Thanks for sharing, Chow. And we have just a couple more questions before we get into our article. How do you think the world would be different if all human rights were respected? So that's the next question we're going to answer. And I'll copy it into the chat box as well, so you guys can read it there. Adela, will you go first and tell us how you think the world would be different if all human rights were respected?
I think I would like to change in to change about the human race. People is equal in, but it's in utopia, no?
Utopia?
Utopia, yes, because it's same. All people is equal. Is don't no problem. Race, color, religion, etc. But is not possible.
Wow.
I would like at least human right will be in the future is possible will be more mm, more decrease no the problems about the human right.
Mm-hmm.
But this I think is very difficult.
All right, so you think that it's probably not very likely that we'll have human rights for everyone in the future.
Yes. I think it's a problem because they are poor countries and rich countries.
Yeah.
Is they are different. It's not equal. You was born in a country or in another. Is a mark. Is a define no your life. I think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. Ali Beck, what do you think? How would the world be different if all human rights were respected?
Yes, sure. I think it will be some kind of another world that we have today. But I agree with Adela. It's some kind of unreal thing today. But we have a right to dream about it. We it's actually maybe I'm wrong, but it's maybe the basic right too. But I think if it will be done, when the people will be respect each other's rights, and especially the politicians and governments will be regard or respect our rights, there will be maybe some kind of different world that we have today. But I think it's yes, it's an utopia, and but we can just thinking about it, dreaming about it.
Mm-hmm.
It will be a good point to whole humanity.
Yeah, slowly working towards that. All right. And Chow, tell us, how do you think the world would be different if all human rights were respected?
well, I think the world would be much better if the basic human right was reserved by the people, respected by the people. I think there will be less war. There will be peace, prosperity, and liberty. That would be. I don't think that is utopia. I know it's very difficult to achieve, but well, especially under this circumstance, lots of it's I sometimes I really like take the example of the United States. The United States is getting more. The government don't respect the civil rights as the Constitution was written. So it's kind of away from the object of the respecting human rights. But I think the young people, I'm it's a personal thing, but I'm a fan of Ron Paul, who is a United States politician. But I think because I saw the revolution he aroused in the American young people, so I think the future is bright, especially on the young people, the liberty idea. So I think yes, we may have a bright future.
All right. So you have a little bit more of an optimistic opinion than the other students. You said you think human rights are possible to attain human rights for everyone. Is that correct?
Yeah, for everyone, it's not about the poverty of the rich country. I think in the poverty people, personally, I think that the reason of poverty is because that the government or bureaucrats don't respect people's human basic rights. If they respect for that, there won't be poverty. There will be prosperity. So it's about the idea to change, especially the individual and people to change their idea about this. Yeah, and
I totally agree. Okay. So let's get into our article. I'm going to screen share, and the link is also in the chat boxes for you guys. And I'll put it in one more time just in case for the Google chat box users. First off, we're going to listen to it. So if you already have it loaded up, check out the blue box with the white triangle in it. That's where we're going to start to get a preview into the article. So just kind of, you guys can listen to it, and we're going to pick out some of the main words and ideas and then talk about it a second before we actually begin. Okay. So here's the article. And it's called "You Have the Right to Remain Silent," or do you? Has anyone heard that phrase before, you have the right to remain silent?
yes, when the cops were arresting people, they will say that you have the right to remain silent, but what you said will be something like in the court or as the evidence in the court.
Yeah, exactly. You can hear this frequently in any kind of TV show about cops, like Law and Order. They always say you have the right to remain silent, and then they go on and read a lot more stuff. But this article is going to talk a little bit about how we kind of don't have that right. So we're all going to mute ourselves and click this blue button with the white triangle to get a listen to the story before we read it. It'll give you a good idea of some of the general topics we're going over. Try to listen for very important vocabulary words you hear again and again, or ideas, and write anything down as you hear it so we can discuss it in a second. Do you guys have any questions before we listen to it? All right, then go ahead, everyone mute yourselves and play the article. Okay, hopefully you guys had enough time to listen to that report in its entirety. Rafa, welcome to class.
Sorry for the delay.
No problem. So, today we're talking a little bit about human rights and other kinds of rights. And we've talked a little bit about what certain basic human rights are. Do you have an opinion on some basic human rights, what they are?
Yeah, I think human rights are so necessary to maintain in every country, but many countries has not the the respect to these human rights. And what are them? I don't know. Perhaps the human right to permanent silent if you are in prison. Don't be maltreated if you are in prison. I don't know.
Yeah.
Right now.
Good start. Did you get to look at our article at all?
I can see. Yeah.
Okay. So the link is also in the chat box if you need. And right now we're going to talk a little bit about what we just listened to in the report from this article, starting with Chow. Can you tell us a little bit about what you heard and what was being discussed on that audio segment?
Yeah, it's I heard about basically it's about the right to remain silent, especially in the especially talk about the criminal or the people who kind of to oh what's that to crime to delay crime and that he has a he or she has a right to stay silent and people argue about that. And I remember someone talk about the Constitution, said that in the Constitution, it is not the case that saying that it's people have the right to stay silent, but with regarding to the Supreme Court, and they say that rephrase yeah it has a right. So there's some debate on that. Yeah, that's it.
All right, Adela, is there anything else you'd like to add about what we heard in that article?
Sorry, Chao explained very well the article. Yes, is no more to add. Okay.
Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit more about this and read more about the topic as well. Any questions or comments before we read a little more? Just if you guys are curious, you can look at this transcript as well, meaning that after class, if you want to listen to the audio and see what they're saying at the same time, you can follow along with the transcript there if you click. But for now, we're going to get into the actual article, and I'll read the first couple short paragraphs before letting you guys take over. You have the right to remain silent. Any devotee of TV crime dramas or police procedural shows hears the phrase regularly, but new court decisions in recent years have chipped away at that principle. Rafa, will you read this paragraph for us?
Yes. Take the case of California resident Richard Tom. In 2007, he broadside a car, injuring a girl and killing her sister. At the accident, a son, oh my gosh, at the accident sounds a son. He has to go home, but was told no. He wasn't handcuffed, but police held him in the back of a police car. At no point did he ask the police about the victims. During his trial for vehicular manslaughter, prosecutor Sean Mi Chang told the jury that Tom's failure to ask about them pointed to the consciousness of his own will. Good.
Thanks. That was a tough paragraph. The next two paragraphs, Chow, can you read?
Yes. His complete lack of concern for the occupants of the car that he had just broadsided was one factor that showed his indifference to the consequences of his reckless driving that night, Chen says. But didn't Tom have a right to remain silent, to not ask about the victims? For decades, television shows like the Colombo and the Law and the Order series had told us you have the right to remain silent.
Great. So, do you guys have any vocabulary questions from that section? I'm going to ask you guys to define one word, the word broadsided. What does it mean when you broadside a car?
I think it's more than a fender bender.
It's more than a fender bender, that's true. What else is there? What other parts to the definition can we add? All right, I'll help you guys out a bit. Oh, go ahead.
Is it like hit a car from the side?
Yes.
Now, yeah.
Exactly. So frequently we'll see someone get rear-ended, meaning that a car hit another car from behind, right? So the person behind got their front hit in the back of the other car. That's a very common accident. But another way that it can happen is if one car smashes into the side of another car, which is called broadside. And it's less common, but definitely a very dangerous kind of accident. And that's what they're talking about here. So this guy smashed into the side of their car, killing one girl and injuring the other. Do you guys have any other questions as far as vocabulary goes before we talk a little bit about this right to remain silent? All right, if you guys do think of vocabulary questions, definitely put them in the chat box or remember to ask me when we come to an appropriate pause. So let's talk a little bit about if you guys think this is a right we should have or not. The right they're talking about is when something happens and you get arrested, or if in this situation you're being held, they say you have the right to remain silent, meaning that you don't have to say anything, and anything you do say will be used against you. But in this case, the fact that this guy did not say anything, Richard Tom, did not say anything, and they used that against him. So that's kind of the opposite of the point of this whole the right to remain silent. Rafa, do you think it's okay that they used that information against him, or do you think that that is a right he should have and his silence should not be able to be used against him?
I think in every developed country, the human right to remain silent need to be respect. But in many countries, you have no rights, and in this case, I think this guy could be felt very offended by this police action.
So do you think his rights were violated?
For violated?
Yeah, were his rights violated?
Violated, yeah. His right was violated.
All right. Chow, what do you think? Is the right to remain silent something that everyone should have? Do you think it was right that they used that against him?
Well, yeah, I think it's a right to keep silent. Well, especially now he haven't been in the after the process of the judge system. You know, he's not a criminal. He's just a suspect. Suspected or anyway, the suspicious he's now, technically speaking, he's not a criminal, so that he had the right to keep silent. In the court, he may have to answer something, but now he have the right to keep silent. And I don't think that to say that he didn't say anything about the victims is a negative evidence for him. I think it is now clear, because if he can say like in this way, I keep silent because I feel guilty. I'm speechless. I cannot say anything at that moment. That can be a proof for him. So I don't think the judge should use this as say, oh, you are now feel guilty. You don't have the consciousness toward the victim. I think that is too arbitrary by the judge.
All right. Thanks, Chow. Adela, what do you think? Were his rights violated?
I don't understand exactly the text because they are an accident in the roadside, and the driver is handicapped. Is the driver because they are victims, no? Or
Yeah, so the
no?
driver and the person at fault in this accident was being held in a police car. So he was not allowed to leave or go home or anything. But he didn't ask about the victims. Basically, he didn't know that he killed a girl and he injured another. And what they said in court was that he didn't care, that basically he knew that he was guilty of this crime and it didn't matter to him, and he did not care about the safety of the victims here.
He doesn't help the victim. He go home and don't tell about the victims. Or
No, he stayed at the scene and he did everything he was supposed to, but he did not ask about the health of the people who were injured at the time. So they used that against him in court. They said that he was clearly guilty and didn't have any.
he decided to keep silent, to
Yes.
don't give information, no, about the accident, to think slowly about what is the best for him, no? Okay.
So do you think his rights were violated because they used that silence against him?
Sometimes it's better to keep silence because you are nervous. It's possible you can say something you don't. After that, after this moment, you have a problem. But I don't know what is my in this situation. I did, but I think it's better to ask about the victims or the problem you have. I think it's normal to ask about people have a problem.
All right. Thanks, Adela.
I don't know.
No, that's a reasonable answer. This is kind of a difficult question.
Yes, it's difficult because it's self protection or about others, no? To ask for the others, to help for the others, or yourself. It's a problem. I don't know.
Definitely. All right. Ali back, welcome back.
Sure, thank you.
So, do you have an opinion on what we just read, or are you ready to move on to the next section?
Yes, to the next section, but can you please move that screen to the right a little bit?
To the right?
To the left. From you, over to the left.
Let's see. Is this helpful?
Yes, yes, that's good. Thank you.
Okay, great.
But
No
continues,
problem.
if I may,
Yeah.
continues on the line. I think it's a normal reaction when you are shocked by something like an accident, that you freeze your emotion, you could stay silent for a while without with no reaction due the gravity of the accident. And for this reason, I think this guy was violated by the jury because this normal reaction to be silent for the damage couldn't be used against him. I think they are trying to violate one right, yeah, and a normal situation against him. Another point.
Okay, so you think that his rights were definitely violated when this was used against him in court.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Huh?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Just wanted to make sure I understood. Okay. So we just have a little bit more to go. Any other comments and questions before we go on to the next couple paragraphs? We just have two more. Let's get these done. How about Adela? Can you read this paragraph for us?
But the truth is
But the truth, I believe.
by the truth. I start. By the truth is, it's not that simple. Courts have found that suspects don't have to be read their rights upon arrest, but only right before they are interrogated. And there can be a long lag time between the two. In the case of Richard Tom, for example, he was in custody for 2 hours before he was read his right. Early this year, the California Supreme Court ruled in Tom's case and said his silence at the scene of the accident could be used against him.
Okay. So that means, at least in the U.S., the Supreme Court decided that his silence can be used against him, which I think, well, it's definitely a dramatic decision. So, Rafa, what do you think of that Supreme Court decision?
You are saying that the Supreme Court says his silence couldn't be used against him.
It
Couldn't.
can. It can be used.
Can't.
So,
Cannot. Cannot or
the
can?
opposite. The opposite. Yeah, they can be used. They said
Can be
earlier
used.
this year
Yeah.
the Supreme Court ruled in Tom's case and
Yeah.
said that his silence at the scene of the crime could be used against him. So what do
Could
you
be.
think about that ruling?
I can understand how. Also, if you are showing the issue from a psychological aspect, the silence is a normal reaction when you are involved in an accident. I don't get why this Court Supreme cause could resolve against this guy.
Okay, so you think that that's an unjust ruling.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Chow, any ideas on this Supreme Court ruling that says it's totally okay and it's fine to use his silence against him in a court?
Yeah, because I kind of confused because the court said that the suspects don't have to read their right upon arrest, but only right before they are interrogated.
Mm-hmm.
The long lag time between the two. So,
Mm-hmm.
could you explain that? Because so between the before he was interrogated, do they have the right to? Does he have the right to keep silent, or what does this?
So This actually was discussed a little bit in the audio version, but it's not discussed in the article. But what they said is that if you want to use this right, you have to say, I am invoking the Fifth Amendment right. So you can't just be quiet and not do anything else. You have to say, I am invoking the right and I am not going to talk anymore. And then you can be silent. So
Okay.
that's why he ran into trouble, because he just didn't say anything. He just stopped talking and didn't ask. And they didn't read him his rights until a couple hours after he had been in custody in the car.
Okay. So he was in custody in the car after 2 hours?
Yeah, after 2 hours, they read him his rights. So he was in the car for 2 hours because the accident occurred. Police arrived and they put him in the car. And then 2 hours later, that's when they said, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. That's when they said that. But even then, he did not say that he was invoking his Fifth Amendment right. He just wasn't talking very much. So.
Okay. So the key is that he should say that I'm invoking the right of
Yes,
and
that's
Fifth
the
Amendment, something
key
like that.
there. He should
Okay.
say that,
That,
although that's not common knowledge. So people don't know that that's what you should do, but I guess that's what he should have done.
okay, that is very absurd to me.
Yeah. Yeah, it does seem a little absurd, and definitely it's hard for every person to know what to do in that kind of very
For
dramatic
sure, and I
situation.
remember that there is a rule written in the Constitution said that the people don't need to prove their own guilty, uh, like something like that. So this, anyways, kind of absurd for me to it's like to I have to exercise my right and to read to invoke it and to speak it out loud. The right should be embodied with the person, shouldn't like
Mhm.
that way. I don't know, maybe
I
acceptable.
agree. I think that that is what most people believe to be true. And how about Ali Beck? What do you think about this Supreme Court ruling? They said that his silence can be used against him, even though he was told that it couldn't be.
Well, all that I have to get is that he was charged, yes, or by the police, and he has the right to remain silent, but he didn't said it, yes,
Mm-hmm.
about it, that he want to how to say. So I think it's maybe a very funny situation when someone has his right, but he just didn't tell about it, that he want to take that right,
Mm-hmm. Do you
and
think
then
that's fair?
the police or some others. What?
Do you think it's fair that
Hello.
his silence was used against him?
No, I think it's totally not fair. I think it's very tricky for the police. They can do anything with that. Yes, they can say that that person has it right. Yes, but he didn't ask us about it. He he don't inform that he want to be take that right.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Adela, do you agree?
I don't understand a lot because Supreme Court say is guilty, no, about to remain silent, but police had to read, no, the right.
Mm-hmm.
It's not problem about the Richard Tom, no. because I think the procedure is not correct. The correct procedure is to read immediately the rights. He have a decision, no, if they remain silent or no. The procedure, I don't understand because why is the problem for Richard Tom. The problem is had the, I think is for the police don't have the procedure. I don't understand the decision about Supreme Court.
I agree. It does seem like it doesn't make much sense. And mostly because the police tell everyone when they're arrested, they say, you have the right to remain silent. But then in the end, you don't have the right to remain silent. So I think if that is going to change, then police should stop saying that people have the right to remain silent when they don't have that right. It's definitely a very confusing situation. So we have about 5 more minutes, and I want you guys to name one other situation in the world or in your country, in the US, anywhere, that you think is another violation of human rights, something that happens frequently but is a violation. Rafa, do you have any ideas? Violations of human rights that happen on a daily basis around the world?
Yeah, there are many countries that failed in react and don't take in account human rights. Africa, Asia, about children's working in factories, human rights from the women that don't be taken count, crimes against women in Africa with clitoris ablation and many other issues against human rights. I think also in developed countries in Latin America there are many cases of violation, rapting of people. I think any country that has no democracy, even though those that have democracy have crimes against the human right, but when a country has a tyrannic order, there are more probabilities that human right could be no respect.
All right. Sad but true. Chow, any other ideas of ways that human rights are violated frequently around the world?
Well, I think a lot of prior restraint, I mean, the prior suspicion is a problem of violating people's rights. Take the example of the drug war. Well, now there are something happening in China that people would arrest some people who own marijuana and who own some drugs, and the policeman just broke into their house and to say that, oh, I suspect you are using something, and I can search your house without any documents. And I think that is totally valid people's right. And also take the example of what happened in the United States. I guess half a year ago, the Snowden case. I think that yeah, you know.
Scandalous. Tell us what you thought about that.
Well, the government are suspecting people is a value to people's privacy. Is a total value to the civil right. I think Snowden is he did a good thing. He's a whistleblower. So yeah, that was my opinion. Lots of things are happening. So we have to protect our civil rights and liberty.
Definitely. Adela, can you name another way you think human rights are violated frequently around the world?
I think sometimes in Spain For example, I think the immigrants' right sometimes are violent, violent because uh, police are people don't have papers, no, it's illegal, but I think they are um, same right the other people. For example, the last law have a problem with the health to go to the hospital is a problem. They need to pay because I think is in a theoretically developed country as Spain, human right can be violent. Or, for
Yeah.
example, even go to rent an apartment. They have a lot of problems. It's not good, I think.
Yeah, totally. All right, guys, we're about out of time. Do you guys have any other questions or comments on this human rights topic before I finish up today? No? All right, thanks guys so much for coming and participating and have this discussion with me, and I hope to see you guys again soon.
Thank
See
you.
you later.
An
Take care.
interesting topic, but complicated. Thank you.